Ohio DD Talks, and I'm your new host, and I'm so excited to give y'all some flavor and everything. But next, I'm going to introduce you to my co-host, Miss Sherry Cooper. Sherry Cooper, bring on your flavor.
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here to co-host with Marcy today, and we got a good show for you today. So, Marcy, take it away.
Today, we are going to be talking about advocacy. The legislative session is underway in Ohio. Everybody ready? I know I am. And now is an important time for the DD community to pay attention to what's happening at the State House on bills and ideas that will affect the DD community. Today, Paul Jarvis, Liason Officer of Ohio DD Council, joins us to discuss what the council is up to at the legislative session. What advocates need to know and why advocacy shouldn't be only during the session. Welcome, Paul.
Well, thank you, Marcy. It's a pleasure to be here for your first hosting session of DD Talks, along with Sherry, excellent co-hosts. I feel very welcome and relaxed to be here and talk a little bit about the items that we're going to talk about today. Where would you like me to start? Do you want me to start talking about DD Council or the DD Day or meeting with your legislator? You pick.
So it is the legislative season in Ohio, and it's an important time for advocates to be involved in building relationships with their legislators in your work. What are some important things for people to know when building a relationship with their state senators and representatives?
Oh, that's a great question. Thank you. I worked as a legislative staff person, and so years ago I got to participate in a lot of meetings with people that would come in and meet with their representative to talk about issues that were important to them. I think one of the most important things that I would recommend people do is just be yourself. Okay, don't try to be anything that you're not. I'll give you an experience that I had as an advocate a couple years ago. I went to Washington, D.C. for this big conference, and they handed out all these different fact sheets. And one of them talked about, I think they were talking about block granting Medicaid. And so, I went into the congressman's office and I started talking about the stuff that was on the fact sheet, only to find out that I didn't have all of the information because it wasn't my issue. I was just trying to repeat what somebody else told me. So my recommendation, what I tell folks is don't do that. Talk about what you know, right? Nobody is going to know your life experience better than you. So that's the first thing, is be yourself, okay? That's pretty easy. The second tip that I would give you is relax. Right? Everybody gets really tense about meeting with somebody so important. They're a state representative or a state senator. But in reality, they're normal people. They're retired teachers or farmers, or, some of them are lawyers. Some of them are insurance agents. They're normal people that decided to run for office. And the great thing about politicians, I'll call them politicians, is they want you to like them as much as you want them to like you. Okay, so they're very welcoming, they're very easy to talk to. Okay, so just relax, it'll be okay. Okay, we got be yourself and relax. The third tip that I have for you is don't assume. Okay, have you ever heard, has anyone ever said, what happens when you assume? You make something out of you and me. Well, I think that's important. And I've experienced that in meetings with legislators where we're talking about a subject And I realized they don't know what I'm talking about. And so don't assume that the person that you're talking to knows exactly what you're talking about. And the best way to do that is to say, for example, I talk about Medicaid buy-in. You guys know what Medicaid buy-in is, don't you? See,
Yes.
I see you shake your head. That's the
Yep.
tool that I use when I bring up the topic. I ask the person that I'm talking about, "Oh, you know about that Medicaid buy-in, right?" And if they say, "No, I'm not familiar with it," it gives me a chance to teach them. So I don't assume that they know what I'm talking about. And you being that resource is very helpful to them. Okay. And that's important. That's an important step in building the relationship that you want to build with your legislator or their staff person. Uh, the um, the last piece of this part, I would say, well, last couple pieces. Rome wasn't built in a day. Did you guys hear? Have you guys ever heard that statement?
Yeah.
All right.
I haven't.
Okay. So they say, you know, Rome, a big city of Rome, it took many, many days for them to build it. It didn't happen in a single day. Well, building a relationship with your legislator is the same. You know, you're not going to build a relationship with a single meeting, right? It's not going to just, you're not going to have your meeting on DD Day, if that's the day that you come to Columbus and you have a meeting with your legislator, and then you go home and forget about them for a year. You're not really building a relationship there. You're becoming a one-time advocate. A lot of people that are listening to this, maybe you get like a phone call on your cell phone and it's somebody asking about your extended car warranty. Everybody gets these weird calls from salesmen that they don't know. You don't want to be that salesman. You want to have a relationship. So only dealing with a person once a year, that's not a relationship. Okay. So you need to come back and continue to communicate with the legislator and their office on a regular basis. All right. And then the last really important piece that I want folks to know when they're meeting with their legislator and they're trying to build a relationship is you both are trying to understand each other. Okay. It's not just about you getting to understand what the legislator wants to know about your life, but it's important for you to understand what the legislator knows, whether they have any experience, whether they have people that feel differently about the topic that you're talking about. They say there's two sides to every coin. Well, the same is true for an issue. There, you know, you may feel strongly one way about an issue, and there might be other people that feel strongly about that issue in the other way. And sometimes, you know, the legislator has to understand that, you know, I have one group that likes it this way, and I have one group that likes it that way. I'm stuck in the middle. What am I going to do? And that has happened. It will happen where they have policy issues where they hear from different sides. So understand that they have to deal with that. That they have to come to some sort of decision on that topic with two different groups wanting different things. So those are I guess my tips for building a relationship is, you know, again, be yourself, relax, don't assume, meet more than once, and then try to understand, you know, not only their issue, but try to get them to understand your issue.
Yeah, one thing that I really enjoyed, Paul, when I was on council was going to Washington, D.C. and going on Capitol Hill and talking to the legislators and senators. And one of the people that I liked the most was Senator Chef Brown, because he really talked to me and we really got along and stuff that I wanted to get around and stuff like that. He gave me the answers. But then he said, "What ice cream place do you go to?"
Mhm.
And I said, "I go to Graders." And he was like, "That's one of mine." He said, "That was one of mine too." And then he sent me a letter and he says, "Thanks for what you do, and I'll see you at the ice cream place." and that was really magical to me. And then when I got on my county board at Franklin County Board of DD, he sent me another letter thanking me for what I do, and if I needed him or needed his help, he would help me. So it's good to be comfortable talking to him, and it's also good to have a piece of paper and a pen or one of your business cards, I've learned.
Now, Marcy, thinking back to your trip to DC, because I was there with you, how nervous were you walking into that first meeting? You were pretty nervous, weren't you?
Yeah, I was pretty nervous.
And now that you've done it, you look forward to doing those meetings, don't you?
Yes, I
Yeah.
had fun last year. It was a blast.
Yeah. So that's I think one of the biggest barriers for folks is that they are nervous about talking to a legislator. And I just tell them it's going to be okay. Overcome that fear, because once you do it, you're really going to enjoy it. Sherry, agree, disagree? I know I can't imagine, Sherry, you being nervous about anything.
Talking to any legislator, it's a nervous process because you got people of authority. But you gotta remember, you're advocating not only for yourself, but for others with disability. So you just gotta be okay with it and remember they just like me and you. They just people. So I love your tips, Paul. Very good.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Marcy, I'm gonna take the next question. Paul, you know, one of the biggest DD advocacy days is coming up on March the 1st. The DD Awareness and Advocacy Day. It sailed out so quickly, and we are so excited to be back at the Capitol. Can you tell us more about the day and why Council started this specific advocacy event?
Sure. Yes, March 1st is DD Day, and as you mentioned, it fills up very quickly. I think that's because we have such a fantastic group of people every year that are there to talk about their lives, right? They're being themselves. They're sharing their own experiences and talking about things that they know about. So I mentioned earlier that I used to work in the legislature as a staff person, and I'm going to tell you that every year there was a group that had a Statehouse Day, a specific group. They were the dental hygienist group, or the librarians. They would have a very great day that was coordinated such that everyone met with their legislator. They all talked about what they wanted to talk about. And by the end of that day, if you were in an office, a legislative office, or you were a legislator, you would be very hard pressed to say that you did not know how they felt about particular issues relating to their public policy. So I'm going to say that the DD Council, knowing that people with disabilities need that same sort of access and need that same sort of understanding, we wanted to build a day that gave everyone an opportunity to meet with their legislator and share with them what's important to them, what's going on in their lives. So I think, 15, 20 years ago, there was a DD kickoff event at the Statehouse, and it was a 2-hour program, and it was designed specifically just to raise awareness. And then it would be at the Statehouse, and then people would leave. And then the DD Council would have a grant that grant to get people to meet with their legislators. And we said, let's join these together and make it, the kickoff event that it is. March is Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month. So let's do it every year at the beginning of March and raise awareness about our issues. So we have a 1-hour program where individuals with disabilities, and typically we've had the director of the Department of DD, maybe the governor, a few other very special guests join us to talk about what's going on that year on DD issues. And then the second part of the day, because we joined, is once that program is over, we encourage people to meet with their legislators. So we have a grant at DD Council that schedules all of those meetings. So when you register for the day, you're going to get a notification about a week before the event starts that says, you know, hey, here's the plan for next week. We've scheduled a meeting with your legislators. It's going to be at these times. You know, if there are talking points or fact sheets, we offer those. I mentioned earlier, we try to steer away from giving folks too many fact sheets or talking points because we really want people to talk about what's important to them, right? Marcy, if I gave you some talking points on, you know, how to clean a swimming pool, you would go, I don't clean swimming pools. I don't care about that. So if you had a talking point maybe on how to make your own cookbook, I think I would have you write that talking point, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's really cool. I mean, like, I enjoy going to see my legislators. Hey, a couple of times I got lost, but luckily when you
Yeah.
go with a group of friends, because or else you were stuck like if you were in a maze. But the whole experience of seeing all my friends, self-advocates, people in the DD industry, the community, and just having all that has been such an important part of this experience. And one thing I can say, when you do go, wear some comfortable shoes. do not try, don't try to be cute and say, oh, I want to wear these heels. But then when you walk in, you're like, your feet are so tired. Because I did that my first time, and oh wow.
I just gotta chime in. The energy of the day is just so exuberating. Everybody's there for one purpose, and that's to advocate for people with disabilities. It's a great day, and I'm honored because this should be my 9th year emceeing the event. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Don't move on yet. I had a few more things I wanted to say about the DD Day. I agree 100% with what you said, and I wanted to just add a little to what Marcy said about going with friends. So when we do schedule the meetings, there's there's probably going to be other folks in your meeting, right? So sometimes it's a group of people that you're meeting with your legislator or the staff person from that office, and I want to say something about that as well. But it's really important that if you're going to talk, if you're planning to come and you do want to talk about something that is important to you, be ready, right? Be able to, because you're going to share time. So have what you're going to share ready. Maybe practice a little bit. If you can get it down to 3 to 5 minutes, because you don't want to hog the whole half hour or 45 minutes because other people want to share what they're talking about. So be ready. And then we try to schedule the DD Day, Awareness and Advocacy Day, at a time when legislators are going to be in Columbus. They're going to be at the Statehouse, which, typically they come from all over Ohio. So they only come to Columbus when they need to, when there are session days, when they have bills on the House floor or the Senate floor, or there are committee days. Well, so we schedule it so that they'll be around, but at the same time, they're very, very busy, okay? And so there is a high likelihood, it's very likely that we schedule a meeting with their office and they want to be there, they just can't be there so that their staff person is taking the meeting. This is not a bad thing. I will tell you that the staff helps inform the legislator on important issues. Okay, that's number one. Number two, as we mentioned before, advocacy, Rome wasn't built in a day. You're not only going to do this day, you're going to do follow-up with that legislator to build relationships. So if you meet with the staff, that's fine. in your follow-up with the legislator, you're going to say, dear Senator Brenner, I met with your staff, Aaron, at DD Day. We had a great discussion about this. I wanted to know if you had time to meet me in the district. So those are some great opportunities for you to start building that relationship if you do end up meeting with the staff person. That's what I wanted to say about DD Day.
One thing, Paul, one thing we did when we had it last time is you gave out a paper and it has all and helped you with all your talking points. And I know I marked down the ones that I wanted to talk about and had a story with. So I think when you go in to also see your legislators, come with a story that happened to you and
That's
that you
great.
wanted to bring to the table.
That's a great
Yes.
idea. And Paul and Marcy, you just led me into the next question, which is there's a lot of energy at DD advocacy on Wednesday. And people are so excited to meet their legislator. Paul, I want to ask you, how can advocates continue to build and foster this relationship outside of this legislative session?
Great question. Thank you. Thank you. As I just briefly mentioned, I think no matter what, a follow-up note, a thank you. Thank you for the time. In any typical day, session day is what they're called, legislators have multiple committees that they're attending. They have meetings, 8 to 10 meetings in addition to those committee meetings, and then they'll have session and perhaps even a caucus, which is a meeting of one political party where they talk about what their plans are. So any given day, the legislator might have 20 meetings with committees, session, caucus, and private meetings. So the fact that they're spending time with us should be appreciated. So I think a follow-up, a thank you note, maybe a review of what you've talked about. If you're asking them for something, you definitely want to highlight this is what our ask was. A lot of times the legislator might ask you a question that you don't know the answer to. I think it's very important, if you don't know the answer to something, say you don't know, right? But say, I don't know, but I'll try to find out for you. And that's another opportunity for you to follow up. So do the work. Like if you say you're going to do something, do it, and then follow up, and then try to keep the conversation going. Because that's what this is about. This is not just about one day. It's about, hey, can we do a meeting in the district? The other great thing about the time that we live in is we have Zoom, right? We're doing this on Zoom. You can schedule a Zoom or a Teams meeting. You can do a phone call. There are other ways to do that. The other thing I wanted to highlight is if you do end up in a meeting with your legislator, get a picture, right? And then you want to share along your social media networks, hey, I had this meeting with my legislator. You make sure that you tag them so they get the exposure. We talked about these issues. He or she is either in support or they want to learn more. But you can certainly keep the conversation going if you get a picture, even with the staff person. Hey, I met with Steve, and he's a great listener on my issues, or whatever happens in your meeting. But you can certainly continue or keep the conversation going through social media networks. So those are a couple of things. Follow up. That's if you want to build a relationship, you got to keep reaching out.
Those are great tips. Another question: could you share a success story of a DD Awareness Day or result of advocacy of action?
Well, I had a feeling you were going to ask me that, so I put some pen to paper. And was able to kind of identify a few success stories that we've had over the past few years. I've already mentioned it, Medicaid buy-in. Medicaid buy-in for workers with disabilities was a program that individuals with disabilities advocated for 7 or 8 years before it got implemented as a program. And now we've had it for over, gosh, it feels like almost 20 years. Special education scholarships, there's been advocacy around that to ensure that there was an autism scholarship, and there were efforts to expand that to include all groups of special education. There was advocacy around that. You guys may remember a couple years ago, there was an effort to eliminate the terms MR from the State Department and the county boards. That was done by advocacy, by individuals meeting with their legislators, telling their story, and affecting change. And the last success story that I want to talk about are stable accounts. That's probably the last big one, where not only was there effective advocacy at the state level, but at the federal level. The ABLE accounts were created or passed as part of the federal budget. I think Marcy went with us to DC to encourage congressmen to pass that. And then once that was passed at the federal level, advocates at the local level began working with the treasurer to get stable accounts, and we have those. So yeah, it's not just one success story. There are many success stories because of advocates like Marcy, like you, Sherry, and many others who begin the conversation and don't give it up.
So what you're saying is awareness is key. If they don't know, they can't help. But if they know, they can possibly help.
Absolutely.
That's good. I'm going to circle back a little bit, Paul. Could you tell us a little bit about your role at council? And what does a liaison officer mean? What does that mean?
Oh no, I don't know what it means. I know what I do. So yes, I work for the DD Council, and I've worked for the council now for 17 years. I was hired out of the House of Representatives to work for the council's Public Policy Committee. So the council has a Public Policy Committee, and I think we support or create grants to support individuals to advocate on behalf of themselves. Okay. And so we've had grants to support grassroots advocacy development. We've had grants that supported developing messaging around a particular topic because we know messaging can be very important. We currently we've supported, as I said, the DD Awareness and Advocacy Day now. If you've done it for 9 years, that's probably as many years that we've had the joint event, Sherry, because I think you've been MC since day one that we've had the grant. Does that sound right?
It's been an honor too.
Yes. Well, I can't envision the day without you. Getting the frothing up the crowd and make them all wild and crazy. You're really good at that.
Sherry brings up all the flavor, don't you, Sherry?
I tell Marcy, you got the flavor too. We are the flavor group.
You are like the firecracker of DD Awareness.
Well, if Marcy's the flavor, Sherry's the sizzle. How about that?
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. All right.
One thing, Paul, is I remember when I was on council and we were wanting more people with people with disabilities on each county board. How do you feel about more people now getting on county boards? Because I know I'm happy to be on my county board because I get to give them a little bit of flavor as the first person with a disability on the Franklin County board. So how do you feel about more people being on boards?
I think that's outstanding. I think, there was an effort years ago. There was Senator Eric Kearney had a bill many years ago to clarify that individuals who are served by a county board could also be appointed to the county board. And they passed some sort of language around that, Marcy, that said, when the county commissioners are appointing folks, one of those folks should be a person who is served by the county board. And there has been progress, although it's been very slow. I think that's what you're getting at. And
Yeah.
the council has supported a grant, the Advocacy Task Force, where that group decided, hey, this is an issue that we want to focus on. And they began reaching out to policymakers to say, while we have this statute, while the law says, yes, a person can serve on a county board, there hasn't been widespread acceptance or appointments of individuals with disabilities to serve on county boards. And so, as you probably know, or a lot of folks may have heard already, the state budget bill was introduced last week, the actual language, and there's language in there that requires, not recommends, but requires one person that is served by the county board to be a board member. I think that's progress, and I think that's, while council, provided funds, again, it all boils down to the work of the advocates with disabilities and their supporters and their family members who have done the work to raise awareness about the issue and promote public policy change. So, is that what you were looking for?
Yes.
Yeah.
And also it's like I want to thank you for all that you do for us, because I know you've helped me a lot even when I was on council, and the stuff that I know about the legislator in Washington, D.C., you were a part of me learning about that, and I want to thank you for it, because you're really, really great.
It's my pleasure.
And just to circle back, I was a part of the advocacy task force, and we really, that was one of our main missions, is to get people on county board with disabilities. So I don't think that'll never go away. I'm pretty sure that'll never go away till we reach our pinnacle of success of getting people with disabilities on county boards. So just looking forward to our legislators jumping on board with that mission.
I think that's a topic that folks will be talking about at DD Day. Just to circle back on DD Day, we don't. The agenda is not out yet, but I think a lot of people will be talking about the direct support professional wages and how challenging it has been for people to find the staff that they need, both from the perspective of a person with a disability looking for an independent provider, to the staffing agencies and the residential places. But I think that's going to be a very big topic for DD Day, and then I think people are going to be talking about having an individual with a disability serve on the county boards. It's just too juicy of a public policy topic that not have people talking about.
One thing that we talk about in the advocacy groups that I'm involved in is that advocate, have a group of people advocate and talk to people in your community, like the superintendents and people that help for people to get on boards, to notice you, like not notice you like in the shadow. Go to a board meeting, just to get yourself recognized. And one of the ladies that was speaking, I forget what her name is, but she was talking about that in one of our advocacy groups.
I agree.
Well, Marcy, that's all the questions I have for Paul. Paul, thank you for joining us. And Marcy, thank you for having me today. I really had fun. DD Talk is a great segment. So thank you for having me today. So Marcy, I'll turn it back over to you to close us out. And remember, awareness is key.
Paul, like I said before, want to thank you for all you do for us and with DD Awareness Day and things like that. And hope to see you there and to have some fun and you stir up some more flavor like you always do there. I'm always interested in your famous recipe.
Thank you guys. It's been great.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.